introductions. Let's go with Anna first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Rios. I'm the owner and president of Arios Geo LLC. I started my company about a year ago. I'm the founder of the Future Surveyors Foundation and the Women's Surveyors Summit. I'm super involved with my state, the Texas Society of Professional Surveyors, and I'm pretty passionate about this profession and about helping others, and so I'm glad to be here and be a part of this today.
Nice, thank you. Let's go with Nettie.
All right, I go by Nettie, but my formal name is Jeanette Harley. I'm owner of Harley Surveying. I am a member of the Clark County Young Professionals. It's a local professional organization within my little county in Wisconsin. I participate on 2 WSLS committees in a state level, outreach and communication, which covers social media and website. I'm also part of a new initiative within our state to connect us with the Wisconsin Counselors Association. I am currently president of our Young Surveyor Network and now secretary at the NSPS level for Young Surveyors.
Wait, whoa, is that official? Sorry.
I think I'm allowed to say it now. I've gotten enough messages
official
about it. Sorry.
All right.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Farah, let's round out with the women.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Farah Echeverry. I am the co-owner of Echeverry Land Surveying in Northern Arizona. I am a student member of my local chapter, Arizona Professional Land Surveyors, and I also previously sat on the board for the United Land Surveyors of Arizona until they disassembled. I'm an active advocate for land surveying for the whole profession on social media, and I also work with the Get Kids Into Survey team.
Awesome, thank you. Ooh, eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Let's go with James.
Hi, everybody. My name is James Combs. My company is Bonafide Surveying. Started it last fall and based in Fruita, Colorado. So it's Western Colorado. And so I'm the current vice president of the Young Surveyors Network. And I'm trying to understand how other business owners on this call have time to be business owners and be involved with YSN. I haven't figured that out yet. But yeah.
Thanks, James. All right, Eric, go for it.
I'm Eric Salovich, licensed in New Hampshire and Maine. I'm the president of Northam Survey here in Dover, New Hampshire. I've personally been surveying for 12 years, and March 22nd will be our 1-year mark for Northam Survey. So I'm pretty excited about that. All those business plans and goals and 1-year goals are coming into tuition. Although that stuff was hit last fall, but I'm active within New Hampshire Young Surveyors, as well as the president-elect for the association. So next year I'll be president. I was vice president last year. It's like a 4-year term.
Any other bragging you wanted to do? Because you were just bragging a little bit about your goals. So.
No, I don't know. It's just like our financial goals of what I wanted to make in year 1 and where I wanted to be after year 1. We smashed those last year. So it's a pretty good feeling, especially because we technically started at the end of quarter 1. So I had 3 quarters and we still hit what I thought we were going to hit in 4 quarters. So that was basically that.
Thank you, sir. I'll round out, for those that don't know me, I'm Nolan Mark, owner of On the Mark Land Surveying here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, licensed in Indiana, Michigan, and Kentucky. Been surveying since 2012. I am the Indiana State Chair for YSN, involved with the BCA, Young Professionals here, Building Contractors Association. board member for ISPLS. And then actually, as of today, no, I don't know if it's really official yet or not, but soon to be committee chair for the Public Relations Committee for NSPS. So, and mostly moderating today and just chiming in and asking the questions. You know, don't grill me, grill them. I'm just here to bring people together. So with that, this is a very passionate topic for myself, as I was telling everybody before they got in. I wish someone would have this conversation with me when I was starting, just because, like I was explaining to them, I just feel like there's a stigma around it, just a negative vibe to start your own business. This conversation isn't meant to make everybody on this phone call go out tomorrow and start their own business. It's more or less having the background knowledge or just understanding what business owners go through, or just, if you are curious, you know, being able to reach out or have some of the basic questions. So with that, as we're all business owners, I'll start off and just say, I am an LLC, and I'm curious what everybody else is. So not at once, we'll go the same order this way. Anna?
LLC also.
Nettie?
I'm an LLC that files as a sole proprietor.
Sarah?
So we transferred over from a partnership to an LLC, and we file as an S Corp.
I guess I should have added I file as an S Corp too, my bad. James?
LLC partnership.
Ooh.
Why? Because that's what my tax guy told me.
We'll get to
You have a
that.
partner?
No spoiler. Eric, nobody asked you to talk right now.
Oh God, okay, fine.
All right, Eric, go ahead.
James, you have a partner?
Oh,
Yeah, unmarried.
Oh, interesting. I want to hear more about that. So
You will.
Northam's a sole member LLC. The LLC sole member seemed to make the most sense when I was conducting this sort of research back in December of 2020. We will be switching over to an S Corp once we break the 6 employee mark. Don't ask me why the 6 employee is that number. Do your own research on it. But from what the way I understand it is, once you get over 6 employees, it makes sense to file as an S Corp. So that's what we're going to be doing, which will be this year probably. We're at 4 now. So
I'm going to ask you why. Okay.
I can tell you right now, I don't know why. This is in the business plan when I read about it.
So as James alluded, and since you mentioned business plan, raise the hands, and I assume everybody's going to say this, they all have an accountant, correct? Yes. So I think that's one of the things wait, did you not raise your hand?
Well, I have a tax guy, but I don't have an accountant.
Yeah, I have a tax person, not necessarily an accountant, but
Okay, excuse me.
When we can
Get
talk about
advice.
this subject for an hour, because reconciling accounts
Yes,
and doing this stuff is wild.
yes.
More difficult than surveying.
Agreed, 100%. So, since
James
we all
is
have
saying
accountants-
no. You're the outlier here.
It's so easy. I mean, I use it so easy. It's nothing.
How many bank accounts do you have?
I have one
Oh,
account.
So you
and-
run the business out of your personal account?
No, I have one business bank account and I use Xero, and it's attached to it gets the feed for my bank account, and I enter all my receipts in immediately. And it is just I click one button and it's done, and it's put in the account.
if I could get that on top of things, life would be easier.
Check it out. Here's my receipts from 2022, just this year.
This is
Not
disgusting.
entered.
Do you still use a chain too?
What? Oh, yeah. I mean, you don't?
All right, before this goes to off the rails with banter, thank you.
I'm
Um,
it's cost me a lot, but I'm now reconciling. We're
So,
there.
knowing a little bit from Nettie's presentation on Mentoring Mondays a couple weeks ago, and then with Farrah's comment, if both of you could elaborate on, well, I know Nettie changed, which if she could explain that quickly, really, and then Farrah, if you could explain kind of the process of changing, and for those that probably don't know, you came on with your dad, so explain that a little bit. So go first, Nettie.
Okay, so real briefly, because there's a whole Mentoring Mondays on our situation, but I originally was an S corp because that's what my tax person told me to do, but I never intend to have employees. So filing taxes twice for me personally and for my business just seemed redundant and a lot of excessive paperwork. So I actually did a rare switch down to be just a sole member LLC. And that's why.
And you're loving every minute of it, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Farrah, would you like to explain the process for yourself?
Sure, I'll explain a little bit of it. Like you said, Nolan, I kind of came on board with my dad as his partnership was coming to a close. So after the 2008 recession, the two partners that he still had on they weren't really around. He was really operating more as a sole proprietor and bringing on some contractors. So when I decided I was serious about it, we decided to go ahead and switch over. We had to abolish the partnership anyway because the partners weren't active anymore. And for tax reasons and liability reasons, we decided that an LLC would be the better way to go. He and I are both on there as the account managers. So we have the business divided up, which helps us with our taxes at the end of the year. And the LLC has proven beneficial over a partnership for us when it comes to the end of the year when we're having to sift through all the paperwork and file our taxes. It's easier for us and for our accountant. So that's kind of why we decided to make the switch. It wasn't really our idea necessarily. It was at the behest of our CPA, and it turned out to be a good idea.
Awesome, thank you. And James, I'm going to ask why the partnership? Come on, but you gotta give a good answer.
The good answer is my CPA said that's the way to go, and I want people to hire me as a professional and trust me, so I like to hire professionals and trust them. That's it.
Good.
So does your wife, does she work in part of the business?
Yeah, so she does right now. She's helping out some, and so that's going to affect some things on how it works out with the taxes and that sort of thing. But
like all
yeah,
the account reconciling and stuff that we're talking about.
Yeah, she does bookkeeping and stuff right now. And but she's gonna start doing some other things. Yeah, it's like
sorry, I dropped. My bad.
So anyway.
Okay. So since we all mentioned employees, Nettie, you're by yourself. Anna, sorry, I won't say you're by yourself. If you want to explain how your company works, I'll let you explain it.
I'm also a sole member.
You're okay, sole member by yourself. Okay.
With no intention of hiring employees at this time. I'm keeping it small and simple.
What do you do for field work where it requires a team of two?
I have a field guy that I bring on and I pay him as a contractor.
Smart.
Nice. See
We do the same thing, just so everybody is aware. We don't have any employees. We just bring on people as subcontractors when we need the help.
Nice.
Do you do that with drafting?
Drafting, field work. So we have a draftswoman that we pay as a subcontractor and between 1 and 2 field guys that we pay as subcontractors. So we give them a 1099 at the end of the year instead of bringing them on as employees.
How's I'm not monitoring this.
No, keep going. No. This is a great discussion. Keep going. I like this. I can sit back a little bit.
How do you handle, so if you're hiring out subcontractors, I would imagine you have to get, it's not always the same drafter, or is it someone that works with you and works in your standards? Do you guys use national CAD standards, or do you have your own set of template files?
We have one draft woman. So she's been on with us as a subcontractor for probably the last 15 years. She goes way back. And same thing with the field guys. So we're not rotating through random people, but they're also not working enough hours to make it worth it to the business to bring them on as employees. So we just continue to, for tax reasons, just use them as subcontractors and then do the 1099. So same person, same standards. She works in the office, uses all of our templates, but that's how we do it.
That's smart.
I assume that's the same for you, Anna.
Yeah, same. I 1099. I bring them on as I need. I actually do my own drafting. So at this time, at some point, I'll probably have a drafts person that I contract with, but right now I do all my own drafting.
So mostly you're doing the 1099 for field work then.
Yep.
Perfect. Nettie, would you like to explain the short version again of your of TrueMark?
Well, it's really similar, except I'm the subcontractor servicing TrueMark Surveying, and that's our way of not doing the employee thing, not doing a partnership thing. It's just really cut and dry that way. And I guess Farah and Anna are on the same page with that too. It just makes life so much simpler. And if people want to go their separate ways, it's really easy to do.
So side note, do you see that being kind of not the only path or feature for surveying and kind of how businesses work, but do you see that definitely being probably the most explored path? Anybody?
I think it allows a lot of freedom for everybody.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think for small businesses that have a mutual understanding between the people that they're bringing on and the company, that there isn't, they're not wanting the benefits. They're not necessarily wanting the full-time hours. As long as it's beneficial for both parties, it's definitely the most beneficial for the business to bring people on as subcontractors versus having actual employees that then you're having to dive into payroll issues, and it just opens up a whole nother can of worms.
So Eric, knowing that, and you have are shooting for 6 employees, are you shooting for 6 subcontractors now, or are you still shooting for 6 employees?
I'm still gonna go with employees. And the reason being is I made a decision very early on in the business to be competitive with all of the large firms in the area. We have a retirement match, we have health, we have dental. There's a specific structure spelled out in our employee handbook of X amount of years, gets you 3 years, 3 weeks vacation, 4 weeks vacation. Like, I got this. I spent a lot of time kind of writing that document and laying out these guidelines of what is a place where I would want to work for the rest of my life, because this is where I'm going to be working. And I, created this employee handbook and really have a family feel to the business. And that is like, I can see some pros and cons of when people separate and part ways. But the 2 guys that the 2 real full-time guys I have right now are in it and married to this team thing. And that's come a long way, especially one of them's like a lot younger. He has a credit card, it says Northam Survey on it and his name. He takes the keys to the van home, and I think that means a lot to him. So I had to have a different approach, and it's stressful because it's not only my family that I'm worried about, but all their families as well as the business owner. But that's the nature of the beast.
No, I love it. So knowing how everybody's structured, and I'll go reverse order this way and let Eric go first. What kind of work are you trying to go after? I'll say go after. I know some people just, if you exist, and people call you. So what either work do you do, or do you just exist, or what kind of your background for the company?
So the bread and butter surveys for us are utility corridors. We do a lot of gas line stuff. We're getting into some public water fields and we're trying to expand on that. I guess the reason being is this is my background. I did a lot of large right-of-way projects for the first 8 years of my career. So bidding these types of projects are easier for me. I know exactly how many linear feet the crew can traverse at the given project, how much it takes to draft and research and all this other stuff. So that's where we like to be. Also balancing in the other guy's opinions. My other licensed guy in the office, he's worked on utility corridors, but his background is residential and it's like small camp lots and lake lots and environmental permitting type stuff. So we've been really balancing the large utility projects with the smaller residential. Right now, we're probably 60% small residential surveys. And that's mostly just supply and demand. You have so few surveyors in the immediate area. And it almost feels like a lot of firms in our area are kind of cherry pickers to work. So the mom and pop surveys get left behind and we're filling that void. There's, it was a little troublesome and it kind of like breaks my heart to give the $4,000 like residential camp lot quote for a survey. And a lot of people are like, my real estate agent said this would be $500. But unfortunately,
Never.
The van cannot leave the office for less than $1,000. And that's just is what it is. Either you can blame gas prices or whatever else, but everything's more expensive. And that's the world we live in. And with so few surveyors, I think it's important that people start charging the time that it is as a profession. It's not, it takes a license to do this stuff. So that's where we're at.
I appreciate you taking it a little bit further for down the road. So
just laying the.
I know you just
runway.
lay it out for Larry. Yeah.
I'll
James,
keep going.
I know. We're gonna stop you for a second. Trent, if you can mute him, that'd be great. James.
Yeah. So construction is what I've probably done the most in my career. And so I do a lot of construction, but I also do a lot of smaller projects as well, small lot surveys and little topos for somebody building a house and stuff like that. So I do a lot of smaller things as well. And I'm trying, the goal is to have a mixed bag of work and not, construction maybe. No, I'm trying to have a mixed bag. I really am. And it's the idea is, I think that's healthier for the business. I also like it for cash flow sense as well. Construction is painful and how long it takes to get paid sometimes. So it's really nice to have those small projects to help with cash flow coming in. And the other thing is when you say go after one thing, well, I guess you talk about marketing, but when you talk about private bid stuff, that takes a lot of time to get into. And so the public bid stuff was pretty easy for me because I knew all the platforms to go send out to the bidders and that sort of thing. And that was pretty easy. It's that private stuff that takes some time. So that's it.
I would 100% agree. Getting your name out to I know we say private, I'll say the public, like the general guy that just needs a boundary survey for his fence or just a boundary survey in general. That's harder to get your name out to versus contractors and anybody like that, like on the bidders list. So, fair.
So we do similar mixed bag. We just kind of do everything that involves land measurement. So we make our money off of big Alta surveys, big topos. But just like Eric said, there's still this need for small residential lot surveys and small boundary disputes and small topos for people building houses. And so the nice thing about owning a smaller company is that your overhead is less and you can afford to still take the time to do those smaller projects without losing money. So we do a lot of that. And just like James said too, it helps with intermediate cash flow and it helps kind of fill the voids between big jobs. But we do a little bit of all of it. So.
Nice. And let's go Nettie. Nettie, sorry.
How do you deal?
I said Nettie, not Eric. You can ask your question. When
We're
everybody
coming
goes.
back to that.
Trent, I need you to keep them permanently muted. Thanks. Go
Seriously.
Nettie.
Okay. Well, I do have a diversified background before I started working with Eric. Since I've been working with him, which is we're celebrating 10 years, which is super cool. Our bread and butter is boundary surveying and anything related to that. So floodplains type stuff, small topos. And honestly, I love the small stuff. Like James said, it's really good for cash flow because it's always coming in as you're doing other jobs. And I just love the challenge of even the small surveys. And I'm glad that we're small enough to be able to enjoy doing these types of surveys and helping people. It's bigger than doing a survey to us. It's helping these clients with their situation and guiding them through it. So I thoroughly enjoy it. And that's the kind of work we go after, which we don't really have to go after anymore. So all you listening, charge enough because it's only going to get worse. Charge what you're worth. I mean, we're not going after work. We're turning down like 70% of the requests coming in.
I know your answer to a question later, so.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm throwing it out there now.
No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Anna.
I do a lot of boundary, a lot of tree and topo design surveys. I'll do pretty much anything that anybody asks for. I've got a large, varied background, construction, staking, just your basic lot surveys, residential development. I have a lot of history with the TxDOT projects and city municipalities. I'm not doing a lot of those just yet. At some point I'll get, my WBE, MBE, all those things that help get those types of projects. But right now I'm just keeping it simple. I have some clients that are very specific and want very specific things that normally we would not pick up in a regular survey. And so they keep coming back to me because I'm willing to pick up those few extra things that they want. And so that's worked out really well for me. That gives me some very good repeating clients that I really like working with. Yeah.
Where some of you look at the questions and just start giving spoilers ahead of time, but I love it. So I think I would agree with most people. Most people here have a mixed background or have that background or even, are willing to step outside of that. I would 100% agree with that. Everybody loves to get paid right away. Nobody wants to wait and wait. So I am 100% love doing the boundary surveys as I'm waiting to get paid, or, if I had a big Alta or a topo and it's going to be 30 or 60 days until I see that paycheck, that can go towards paying for other things down the road, like my AutoCAD when that license comes up, or the equipment I'm going to want, versus, the boundary survey is going to pay my payroll and my employees' payroll. So it keeps food on the table, keeps the business operating, not going per se in the red, but, using credit. So Eric, you can ask your question now since everybody's gone.
I self-answered my question. I just walk away when I was talking.
I don't want to hear you. I have headset on.
Oh, look at that cable, dude. You could walk to the next door neighbor's house with that thing. I think he spools it out as he goes down the hall and keeps his
I don't know why I invited. Just keep going.
So I think the only thing I would add, my question for Farah has been self-answered by myself, so we're good there. But if you're planning on going out on your own and starting your own business, your primary focus should be what you're good at. And that's kind of what I am getting out of this conversation, you know, I've always done utilities, I do utilities. James always did construction, he's doing construction. And that doesn't mean you can't take those small jobs and then broaden your horizon. You mix an Alta in, you get better at Altas and you start doing Altas, or, you know, it's overwhelming at first for sure. And I remember it was less than a year ago when I was submitting my first subdivision plan. And I've worked on subdivision plans and I've always had a boss to bounce the ideas off of and gone through the submittal. But when you're by yourself submitting a subdivision plan, it's a interesting feeling. But you'll get through it.
Eric, do you still have somebody that you can call if you're ever doubting yourself? Like, do you have a mentor or somebody close with you that you can be like, can you look this over for me if you're feeling unsure, just wanting that confirmation when you're doing new things like that on your own?
So I'm very fortunate, and this was actually part of my answer for my first question, but it wasn't rolling in nicely after everybody else's introduction. But I got involved within the New Hampshire Land Surveyors Association about 2 years before going out on my own. So I was sitting in on XCOM meetings. I knew all those guys. I knew a lot of everybody in New Hampshire is small too. So there's that. There's only 320 registered land surveyors in the state of New Hampshire, and I know all of them. So
And before Anna says everything's bigger in Texas, keep going.
yeah, exactly. But when I started the company, they did a press release in our benchmark, and it kind of sent it out to the association. And I was really fortunate to get flooded with referrals and people, just other surveyors trying to help the general public out and saying, this guy may have availability, he just opened up. And now we're just as far booked out as everybody else. And it's great. But yeah, to answer your question, I do have my one mentor that I could always call for anything, but there's been so many questions that I disperse it around and mix them in with different association conversations and utilize those resources quite a bit.
That's great. It's a great answer.
Since you brought up a great question, I'm going to reverse it back to you. Besides having just your dad, you have other mentors, and then I'll go down the line. So great question. Go with it.
Sure. Yes. Obviously, my dad's a huge mentor of mine, but like I said, we also have a draftswoman who's been working closely with my dad for 15 years. So if I have questions in that arena, I know that I can go to her. I also have an uncle in Hawaii who's a licensed land surveyor, and so I call him. I do a lot of work for him virtually. So if I have questions, I know I can contact him. And then I've met a couple of the surveyors in Arizona. It's funny, my part of Arizona, we don't have very many land surveyors, but the ones that are in my area, I've developed relationships with. And then luckily for me too, the online community has proven to be a wonderful asset. So I know that if I post a question out online, I usually get some really great feedback. Obviously, that's not for anything job specific, but pretty broad questions, I usually get some great feedback. So that's been a real help as well.
Go for it, James.
Yeah, so there's quite a few different licensees that I've worked under. One in Wyoming. I talked to Nolan about things. I talked to somebody that I met, Chris Pappas, through Professional Society. I talked to actually the Mesa County Surveyor. So the county that I live in actually has a county surveyor, and Scott Thompson. I'm just name dropping here, but anyway, he's fantastic. And so I have been able to get to know some local surveyors where I live, which has been nice. And then just surveyors that I've met throughout my career, and through the professional society and that sort of thing. So it's always the boundary survey stuff that I'm always. I guess to Eric's point, I never had questions on construction, but I always have questions on boundary, which is clearly what I'm the most comfortable with. So
yeah,
but yeah, that's it for me. So it's keep those relationships and make friends and go to professional societies and, so.
Well, it's easy to point the finger on a construction site.
Well, I would have to, this is going to sound terrible, but it's fine. If you make a mistake in construction, everybody knows it. If you make a mistake in boundary, people do not necessarily know it, and you can continue going about your business and doing business
For years.
So, anyway, you have to get the right answer in construction. You have to. I mean, so.
Anyone next with the mentor?
Yeah, I think for me, most of my connections have been through the professional society in our state. And that's, where I've met and just developed friendships with so many surveyors that have way more experience than me. I've been in surveying for 20 years, but I need a lot of help whenever I'm really struggling with a boundary, and I'll reach out to a few different ones sometimes on the same project just to kind of get different input if I'm really struggling with the boundary analysis on something. It's typically boundary that I'm reaching out for help on. Occasionally I'm reaching out in a county that I may not have done a subdivision for and just, hey, how did you go about this process? Because I'm, running into some roadblocks here and getting their feedback for that. So really just the state society of professional surveyors, that's where I've met most of the contacts that I have to reach out to for any help that I need. And they've all, just like the others have said, you don't really have to go after work. Some of those contacts are sending work your way as soon as they know you've started your own company.
Amen. Nettie?
So obviously I work with my main mentor, Eric, and we have a excellent county surveyor, Wade Pettit. So I definitely bounce off a lot of tough situations off of him. I made a point to get to know all our local surveyors. Some relationships have been easier than others to make, but just to establish that open communication, because in boundary, there isn't always a black and white answer. And if I disagree with a surveyor, if they disagree with me, I want to arrive at the best location of that corner, not just have somebody set another pipe or me set another pipe. I don't like to be that way. I'm also we have chapter meetings within our state society, geographic chapters that also meet in a great group of guys that you can always reach out to.
Excellent. Thanks for the great question again. So I do have a Q&A list that I share with everybody, but we're not going in any order. So I'm going to jump, just also for time and whatnot, and kind of going on topic a little bit. So I asked everybody to think about, are you a price, time, or quality driven business if you had to pick one? So I think, Nettie, I'll let you go back and go first again, because you were very passionate when you were talking about it. So I'm going to guess what yours is, and it might be you're a quality driven business, but I'll let you change my mind.
I would say guilty, because we will literally tell people that if you're looking for the cheapest, we're not going to waste our time looking at your job. Like, we've actually had that honest conversation. We want to do what's best. We want to do what's right. And we want clients that want to achieve that outcome and that are going to trust us to get to that outcome. Most of our jobs are through our reputation with our related professionals and through word of mouth. So reputation is everything. Don't go for that. Don't be cheap, and then you get cheap people that are just a nightmare, and then you don't have the budget to do a proper justice on that survey. I don't know. It just, anytime you bid cheap, it just always goes bad. I mean, I know we could all spend all night talking stories, but we do more than just help clients with a survey. A lot of times we're the first people they call, and maybe they miss a step, another professional they need to talk to first before we get involved, or to guide them to the next professional after us. Also, if we know it's a contentious situation, we will do the legwork of talking to the neighbor, try to keep people out of court. That's not something you necessarily get paid for. Sometimes that's something we just do because we care about our clients. So that's our business model, and we're still in business 10 years later, so it's working.
Love it. Anna, I know we've been on some mutual calls before, and when I've said say it louder for the people in the back, you cheered me on. So
Yes, get paid for what you're worth and absolutely focus on that quality. That's where I stand.
oh, come on, I know you got more than that, right? No, you
Short
say my
and sweet
survey
to the point. I feel like you could breeze through
says
all
my
of this.
my surveys speak for themselves. Amen. Go for it, Eric.
So I approached this question in your questionnaire a little differently. But I think I'm going to agree with everybody else that you only have one reputation and one chance. I know at least up here in New Hampshire, if I pull up a reference plan on a survey and it was done whenever, as soon as I see the company name, I have a general feel of how that retracement's going to go. So a goal of mine and a goal of Northam Survey is that when a company pulls a Northam plan, they're going to have a positive feeling about how that retracement's going to go. So that's really the general feel of everything. If it takes more time, it takes more time. You know, talking about like price and time and that sort of thing, you know, we do all of our projects lump sum. And I mean, the big utility projects get away from us. Those are different beasts, but every other job is lump sum. And it's like sort of like gambling, but in a way more ethical stance of you give a price for a survey. And there's times when I'm in the basement of the town hall reading a road layout from 1812, and I'm sitting there going like, didn't have this budgeted, but it is what it is. I'm in the basement and I'm reading those deeds. That's because I know it needs to be done. So reputation, quality.
James was shaking his head over something, but I'll let him go first, and then I'll let him shake his head more at you.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Wait, I'm up.
Yeah, you're shaking your head.
Yeah.
Turn a light on, maybe you'll be a little bit more awake.
Yeah, I do estimates, and I'm not, and no one's taking me away from them. I think it's awesome, and my clients do not have a problem with it. And when I tell them, and I have assumptions in my estimates, I'm like, hey, I assume I'm going to find some property corners on either your lot or your neighbor's lot, and I'm not going to retrace the whole subdivision. And if I do, we'll talk about it. It's just like, if I take, the simple analogy of taking your truck to the shop and they're like, hey, you went in for an oil change, but it turns out you need a new timing chain. Well, the mechanics can charge you for the timing chain. So anyway, estimates, love them.
You're just still trying to figure out time and how everybody has time to do anything, right?
Yeah.
Well, the thing I would challenge that to is what happens to your business model when you're in business for a long time and you get repeat clients that call you on your reputation. So you spend the first 10 years of your company's existence trying to build a reputation, and then you have someone else, like if you are not completing these estimates, I'm just hypothetically speaking that the company's grown, and you come to realization that every one of your projects, you're coming out 20 to 30% higher on your estimated bill. And then you start seeing these clients just get pissed and pissed and pissed and pissed. Like that's what I've seen firsthand. And that's why I've moved away from that, where I tell a client a lump sum and that number is always changing. If I get burned on 2 projects, then it goes up a little bit. There's some general things that need to fit the box. I read every deed before I write a proposal, and some people don't do that.
It sounds like your method's working for you. Yeah, to each your own.
Yeah, I get it. It's safe.
Yeah.
before
And-
you two go at each other's throats a little bit, I will say I don't think anybody here expects us to each have the right answer. We all obviously are in different parts of the country, and it's obviously the show, how everybody's running their own business, staying afloat or whatever. So, as James said, each his own. But
Yeah.
I'll chime in real quick. I do a little bit of both. So if I find a project, or if it's an old subdivision that doesn't even have any bearings and distances on there, it's just lines on a map. Sometimes I'll put that verbiage like James has in my proposal. That way it's covered. But most of my projects are all lump sum, and sometimes I get bit, but most of the time I do all right. So I
Love that.
look at the project before I ever give a proposal, and I make sure that, okay, I know where this is at, and I know what problems I might see. And if it's something that I really think I'm going to see some problems on, I'm writing that in that proposal, that this may cost more money than what I've got on this proposal here.
I agree. I'll chime in a little bit too in that regard, because we do a little bit of both, and I don't know how you guys fully operate, but sometimes what we will do is review everything. We put together estimates too. We do bill some stuff hourly, some of our construction staking, smaller jobs. But sometimes if we're looking at something and we're not quite sure, we review all the available data. We think we can do it for around X amount of dollars, but it could be more. We will send the client a not to exceed price. And then it could be under that, but it won't ever go over it. So, we give ourselves a nice cushion, say a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 cushion, not to exceed $10,000. If we get out there and we find everything and it's all peachy, then you're going to save some money. If we don't, then it's not going to exceed X amount of dollars. As far as the money, quality, time question goes, something my dad has always taught me and how we kind of operate our business is you have those three options. You have quality, you have time, and you have cost. And if you tell that to the client, we have three options for you. Quality is non-negotiable. You never sacrifice on the quality end. So you can kind of work with the client to determine what's more important to you, to save a little bit of money or to get this done really quickly. If you need it done really quickly, it's going to cost you a lot more money. If you can wait a little while, we're 10 to 12 weeks out on starting new projects right now, then you're going to save a little bit in the long run. So that's kind of how we've chosen to look at it.
that was a damn good answer. And I hope Eric spent 20 minutes thinking on this question. You only took like 5 seconds, because that was beautiful.
19 minutes for the whole thing.
At least, so really quick, since Tim did ask in the chat, and there will be more Q&A later, but since I think we kind of touched on this a little bit, I will bring it up, and I'm going to give this another 10-15 minutes most. That'll put us right about an hour. I know everybody has things to do. Tim asked, would anyone be willing to share how they bankrolled their new venture, injecting your own capital, bank financing, if you could go over building assets and borrowing as an LLC? I'm more than willing. I'm an open book. I don't mind sharing information like that. I'll go first, and then if anybody wants to chime in. I personally, I jumped around a little bit, and it wasn't for my own gain or anything like money. I was always after professional growth to get to where this point is. I always had the idea of being a business owner. So with that, I did have a few 401k accounts kind of not lumped together, or the ones that I could lump together, I did. So me personally, I used as much as my own capital. I'm not saying go out and drain your own 401k account tomorrow and start your own company. That's just how I kind of approached it, without going to the bank and be like, please, sir, some more money. So I used as much as my own capital. And then I think, who's laughing at me? Don't laugh at me. It's a
I'm
joke.
like wheezing over here. It's a deep laugh.
I did approach personally. Well, I didn't approach, actually. My wife was like, why don't you ask your dad? And I was like, I don't want to ask my dad. I don't know. I was prideful. I didn't want to ask my own father. So, finally she basically went up to him and was like, your son won't go ask you. He doesn't, I won't say what she said, but you know, he won't ask you. And he came to me and goes, you know, don't be afraid to ask for money. I just didn't want to fail and, you know, owe my dad a bunch of money. So my dad's mindset was, I'd rather you ask me than go to the bank. So borrowed money from my dad, paid my dad back as soon as I can, and then I paid myself back, not into a 401k, into a simple IRA, but now I have a line of credit if I need to use it. You know, I don't have $1 million to use for a line of credit, and I don't use that line of credit to go, you know, buy all the fancy new equipment that I need for, you know, blowing on lunch every day. It's to pay myself, pay my employees while I'm waiting to get paid. So that's my personal experience. Anybody wants to chime in? James?
Yeah, bootstrap. It was family money, and financed the equipment, which I was surprised at how easy that was. Financing equipment was not bad, and when they finally said, "Oh, you can buy used equipment," I was like, "Great! I wish you had started with that." Because
sales, James, sales, get the most out of it. Come on now.
Yeah, I was like, that's not meeting my budget. And he's like, well, we do have used equipment. I'm like, well, I'm glad you told me. So, and then the biggest thing for me was I had work. So it wasn't like the business started and it was crickets and I was waiting. I had work when I launched. So, but that's it for me.
And I saw you unmuted for a second.
Yeah, I also put in my own money, but I kept it super small because right whenever I started my company was when I found out I was pregnant. So I knew there would be about 6 months of me being in the field, which is exactly what happened. And then after that, I had the contract field personnel that I work with, and they have their own vehicle, their own equipment. So during that first 6 months, the few field projects that I took on, I just rented equipment at that point. At some point, I will purchase my own equipment when I get back into the field myself. I really enjoy the field side, so I don't know. We'll see. As I grow, I might have another field person come on board, so I'm not out in the field as much, and I'm more able to focus on the business aspect of it. But I just used the little bit of my money that I had and put it in. I did not want to take out a loan if I didn't have to. And I keep my numbers very, very small as far as my cost. And that's how I've done it. But I'm in a very unique situation with my daughter and a very limited amount of work that I'm bringing on because I don't have to work a ton. And at some point I'll grow my company, but right now my focus is on my daughter.
Anybody else on that question specifically?
So
Nettie? Or
I'll wait. I'll go last.
Everybody's gonna go. All right, we'll go Nettie, and then Eric. There we go.
Mine will be pretty short because when we first started out, Eric invested in his own equipment. I invested in mine. We got used stuff. It was a few $1,000s at the time, so it was really attainable. Then when it was time to upgrade, we had to finance. But for those of you considering all this, get to know your vendors because they have demo equipment, which is pretty much like new, and they can offer it at a reduced rate. And it's very limited, but we were able to score on some of that. And then obviously with purchasing an office, as some of you, I guess that might be a quick pop question, is whether you rent or own your building. After renting, we actually do own a building now because it was pretty much the same as our mortgage. And obviously that's a mortgage that we're paying off.
Excellent. Fair.
Well, I'll just speak briefly kind of about how my dad got started, because luckily for me, I kind of came into an already established gig. But just like was just mentioned, get to know your gear guy. So we've had a faithful, like a dealer for a long time. And Interestingly, when my dad was first getting started, our gear guy, Nick, was also kind of just getting started. And they kind of made a deal. Nick really wanted to sell some gear. And so he brought some GPS to my dad and let my dad keep it for a couple weeks just on a trial run. So he worked with it, and he did actual jobs with it to make the money to put a down payment on it. So he kind of worked that in his favor. So yeah, the business was started with personal funds from each of the partners, very, very low overhead, low cost. So it wasn't some huge investment. There wasn't any need for big loans. He financed his first GPS units, and he also decided to do it partly because he was smart, partly out of necessity for a short term. So he had it paid off in 2 years. And then we kept that gear for a really long time until we decided to upgrade. So we have a good line of credit established now. LC he has for years, but it doesn't take a ton of personal capital to get started.
I'd
There.
expand on that and saying, you know, kind of to Tim or anybody who's tentatively planning this, come up with a list of costs that you need right away. Mine was computer, robot, you know, you have your legs and your field supplies and everything in the back of the van, your software costs. Maybe you go for a plotter right off the bat. Maybe you don't. You want the survey grade GPS, so you need that. Call around, get some quotes, figure out if you're going Trimble, Leica, and basically at the end of the day, you're going to come up with this fat number at the bottom of the page that you need to start. And you can cross off which ones you can finance on, and I'll get into that in a second. But you come up with a number, and then you got to find out where do you get this kind of money. I was fortunate enough to have a investment property in town that was a profitable duplex. You know, I was always over there. It was an old building, so I was spending my vacations from work fixing it up and doing this and doing that. I decided to part way with that building when the market was at the high that it is at now. So I had all that capital and I was able to start the business. I didn't have to go begging to a bank. I will say, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it worked for me. In the same day, in 24 hours, I bought a van, I bought a Trimble R12 GPS, and I applied for a full line of credit at the bank. All in like a 6-hour time frame. So all these credit reports were being run at the same time, and there's a backlog on credit reports where they don't actually see each other pinging your credit. So I don't know if there's anything illegal about it or not. I don't think there is, but I basically financed everything for my business within a 6-hour span and got A-tier financing across the board. May help you out. It's tough to align, but you can do it.
I see how you work over there. It's all good.
Hey, dude, it's like, sorry, trying to start a business, bud. Here's my plan.
Hey, Nolan, I want to chime in just 1 second on that, just because it's, I would say for anybody who wants to start a business, to start buying your computer, start buying your things before you go and give your notice, right? Go and get your equipment financing. I mean, before I started June 1st, 2008, right? So bottom of the economy, the worst time you could do it. But I went and got all my equipment and got it all financed before I even gave notice. So there's ways to go about it so that you're not trying to do that capital outlay at once. Take a 6-month or a 12-month plan and start buying computers and buying your softwares and buying that kind of stuff. So that's the only thing I want to chime in on that. So,
well, and to build off what Trent said, if you haven't quit your job yet, you have income when you're filling out those finance credit reports.
And that's the most important part. You got to have money coming in to be able to get approved for anything, right? I mean, that's credit 101 right there.
That's lesson of credit 101. Okay, so I'm gonna keep this to 9 more minutes. I'm gonna do rapid fire on 2 quick questions. I'm gonna leave the floor to just the ladies for a second. So James and Eric, you can take a seat when I get to that point. But I was surprised knowing just people around my area. A lot of people don't do contracts, professional service agreements. So I'm curious how many of you do or don't do professional service agreements or contracts. And just for short, if you can keep your answer to one sentence, that'd be great. But Farah, do you do professional service agreements or contracts for any or all?
Some.
Some.
So bigger work, yes. Anything under $2,000 sometimes.
James.
Contracts for everything. DocuSign is awesome.
Very short answer. Love it. Eric.
Contracts. Van doesn't leave the office unless there's something in writing.
At a minimum of $1,000, yeah, we know.
No. That's not what I'm getting at. But my contracts, I strive to keep it at one page. It is spilled into two. It's about a page and a half. It has the client information, scope of services, costs, items not included, billing, schedule, acceptance, and then some legal mumbo jumbo. I would share that if someone wanted it, as long as you're not in New England.
Anna.
A professional services agreement. Yeah, absolutely. I will say that there are a few times where, like Farah said, if it's less than a couple $1,000s and I know the person, maybe it's a friend of a surveyor that I trust and know how to get to that person if I don't get paid, then I might not do one. But typically for most clients, there's going to be an agreement.
And then Nettie.
So obviously larger projects are have contracts. Smaller projects, which is most of what we do, email confirmation or a voicemail is good enough in a lot of cases. We work with a lot of Amish and Mennonites, so they're good by their word.
Say no more.
Right. So shoot, there was something else I was gonna say, but lost it.
If you think about it, you can interrupt us, don't worry.
Okay, we'll do.
And then another quick question, does anybody do marketing to grow their business, or do you kind of just exist? Reverse order, Nettie, and in case you remember, you can go again.
Marketing, I guess one, I remember what I was gonna say now. For those of you doing boundary survey work, get to know the title company processing the land transaction. You never have to worry about getting paid. Just tip 101, Nettie 101. All right. Marketing, we don't really do anymore because we have such an established business and such a shortage of surveyors in our area. Our reputation brings us enough work.
Excellent. Anna?
No marketing. All of my marketing has been through my network of fellow surveyors that send work my way, and a few other additional clients that I've worked with in the past that have sought me out, that I still work with.
Eric?
I do a small amount of marketing, but it's mostly for pride because I like when my land surveying firm comes up first in Google. I pay less than or right around $100 a month in Google advertising. This was more when I first started, but I've scaled it back because I can't keep up. And I've been doing a lot of reading about SEO and how to generate your own SEO without paying someone to do it. And it is extremely easy on the Google platform. I'm gonna tell everybody, huh?
The secret's out the bag. Oh no.
It's no longer a secret. Actually, hold on, let me mute everyone from New Hampshire. Just kidding. So if you have your Google business page, which all of us have, it's been accounted for. They send you that postcard and you get to respond to it, whatever. Now, we spend time and we post on our business Facebook page or our business Instagram page for us that are involved in those sort of things. But most importantly, you should be sharing posts, pictures with simple write-ups on your Google business page. And if you are updating that on a weekly or a bi-weekly basis, it gives you credit towards Google itself. So I know some people in company will just sign on to their Google business page once a week and update their address to the same address. And this will literally bump you up in Google search. So for people that are starting out in something new, check it out, because it's a free way to get your name out there without having to pay somebody to do it.
I'm glad I asked for a short answer where you gave all the details, so thank you for all the details. The dirty details.
Yeah,
James.
dude, you said one sentence and I knew that wasn't gonna fly.
That's all good. Someone's got to do it. It's always going to be you. James.
Google Ads, phone calls, mailers. The mailers and phone calls haven't happened much recently because I've been so busy, but once I get toward the end of these construction projects that I'm on, I'm hoping to do a bunch more mailers. I feel like I would almost do a little boundary survey for free if I knew they were going to give me a really awesome review, because I really love getting them. And I have asked people where they hear about me, and several people have been like, hey, you've got really good reviews. And I'm like, all right, cool. Well, it is important, I guess.
Just a little bit.
So
I don't think
fair.
I've gotten a review from Nolan yet.
Listen, man, you said you posted one on mine like a year ago and it's still not there. Anyways, Sarah.
We don't do any traditional marketing like mailers or anything like that, but we do run a Google Ads account. And because of, similarly to what Eric was talking about, because of some of the research that we've done, we have considered sending out some kind of email or something to our clients post survey, post payment, whatever, asking for a Google review. But I haven't taken the time to compile anything like that yet. But of course, everything that I'm reading says it is very beneficial, especially with millennials and Gen Z. Like, we read a lot of reviews, so it's probably a good idea.
Awesome. Okay, and then I'll tie these two last questions since it is International Women's Day, and I'll let the women go last. I had two questions specifically for them because I know you guys are a small group in this industry and it's hard even to break through, and I won't start talking about typical males in this industry. But, I mean, honestly, do you find it harder or clients taken back by you owning your own business? And then my second question was whether you guys were a WBE, why or why not? I'll open it up to whoever wants to passionately go first about either of those topics. Don't jump at it. Anna, you go first.
I don't find it harder now that I own my own business. In the past, working for other companies, I don't know how many times I talked to a client and they thought I was the receptionist or didn't want to talk to me because I wasn't the surveyor, even though I was either licensed or on my way to be licensed. So now, as a business owner, I don't find it harder. It was harder before. And as far as the WBE or MBE or whatever your state or municipality has, I have not pursued that yet, but I have looked at it. It's just timing. With me having a baby last year, I had other priorities.
Let's go with Nettie.
So I'll tell a good story first. One of our main developers that we work with is a lady, and she hired us because she saw my stamp on a map and she's like, I'm hiring that survey chick. So, I mean, so in some ways, and then to reiterate what Anna said, it's been easier being a business owner and more respected than when I was an employee at a company. Typically I had problems with the stereotype older men thinking that I'm the assistant or the wife or the receptionist, and Eric and I just have fun with it. We just go right into it. And most of the time, by the time the survey's over, they have a lot of respect for us, just how much we love serving and the respect we have for each other. So it really helps having that partner that treats me as an equal, even though he does have more experience than me. He respects me as a licensed surveyor. And then as far as a DBE, is what it's abbreviated in Wisconsin, and it's women and minorities. I have not pursued it because it's not the kind of work I want to do anymore. I don't like the bid mentality work anymore. That was a past lifetime. So that's not something that I'm interested in. Not saying that women shouldn't consider it or think about it, because there's definitely advantages if you want to do that type of work.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Farrah.
So I'll piggyback off of what Nettie said. There's plenty of times where a client will call or potential client will call, and I will start to gather information on the phone, and they will ask for my boss, or, you know, let me talk to the surveyor. Usually it just takes a few minutes of having a conversation with somebody and asking some questions to help them realize that they're talking to somebody who's knowledgeable and is going to be able to help them. Unlike Anna and Nettie, I realized that I came into something a little bit differently. So I've faced a lot of yucky comments and uncomfortable situations out in the field, but not, I don't even know how to describe it. It's got nothing to do with whether or not I'm a boss, and it's just got everything to do with being a woman. So for me, it hasn't made much of a difference. I do feel like if I'm on site by myself, that there is a little bit more respect when people come up to me and talk to me and recognize that I'm the one in charge. But I still deal with a lot of, like Nettie said, the older men that just don't quite get it. So it's made it easier in some regards. It's made it not easier in some regards. I see that changing slowly but surely. So my answer is a little bit different, but it hasn't made much of a difference in my life.
And then WBE, yes or no?
Yeah, no, I'm not, and I don't know that that's on the radar for me. So.
Okay. So to you three, thank you again. Sorry you have to deal with this profession. I know people are working on it, so I appreciate what you guys do. With that, the only thing I would have is if anybody has one last comment, or, you know, they had something, one last word of wisdom. Eric, you get one sentence. Everybody else gets 5 because you used up all your sentences earlier. But if anybody has one last thing, tip, not a Google business related, you can go. And then I'll just open it one last time to Q&A, and if you guys have to head out, head out. If not, you can stay. So I'll start with Farrah.
One last word of advice, is that what you're asking me?
Yes, or anything that you think, you know, you'd like to say to someone maybe wanting to do this.
Sure. Well, when I was going over the notes for tonight, my biggest piece of advice was to find a good CPA. If you're thinking about starting your own business, get a hold of an accountant and don't let go.
Just
that's by far been the most aggravating part. It's, as surveyors, you know, you have to be relatively good at math. You have to be a people person. We love what we do in our little circle, and I absolutely hate accounting. I hate everything to do with it. So if you're like me and you don't want to have to enter your receipts and reconcile your million accounts and figure all that out, find a good accountant. And I guess my biggest piece of advice would just be not to be afraid to get started. And like Nolan said, sometimes there's this stigma, especially if you're leaving like a big engineering firm, to go out on your own and start something small. It's awesome. You get to build your own schedule. You get to develop your own business plan, like Eric said. You get to make it and model it exactly how you want to. You can accept or decline the clients that you want to, and you can really just kind of build your own empire. And the freedom of being able to do that makes all the difficult parts worth it.
James.
So I'm just going to paraphrase something that I wish I remembered her name. This is the lady surveyor that is the city surveyor for Grand Junction. Her and her husband owned their own business for quite some time, gave me a lot of very good advice. But in short, she said, do excellent work and you will get a following. And I think that in a nutshell does it for me.
I was going to go with Eric next. I'll go with Anna next. Anna.
I would just say that if it's something that you really want to do, you really want to start your own business, just really think about it and then do it. And don't be afraid of it. And it's totally worth it if that's something you really want to do and that you're passionate about it. Absolutely do it. Don't hold back. Don't be afraid. It's so rewarding to do that. And Michael Flowers asked, why did you start your own business? And for me, it was the flexibility, the chance to choose the clients that I work with, my schedule, the vendors that I work with, the field crew that I work with, to know that I'm doing a good job and that I have that control over that. Those are reasons why I started my own business. And I'm very happy that I did. And it's given me the flexibility to have my own company, have my own hours, and have my daughter here with me daily. So that's why I started mine.
Nettie.
So I want to start by answering a previous question. What's the weirdest thing you ever got paid for a survey? Because we just got a puppy that we partially exchanged for a survey. So he's going to be our future survey dog. It's going to be awesome. There'll be pictures.
Love it.
Love it. Good answers, everyone, so far. Everything is like so spot on. My biggest advice is, don't be scared. Just do it. There's freedom, it's rewarding, it's amazing. And the biggest key is develop those relationships with your peers, with mentors, with related professionals, because those are the ones that are going to help you and give you the work to get started. I mean, relationships are key. I think that's one of the big keys.
Awesome. Eric, I left you for last just in case you keep going and going like the Energizer Bunny. So
when I answered this question, I wrote find an accountant. I didn't do this. I didn't reconcile a single account or a single gas receipt all of 2021. So literally I would sign into my QuickBooks account, and if that like the big number right when you sign into QuickBooks, if that was generally going up, I knew we were doing something right. We did do something right. Like I said, we smashed some goals. We made some money last year, but I just had to pay $7,000 in accounting fees just to get the books straight.
I was just gonna say, this year I paid our accountant an ungodly amount of money to help get our books straightened back out. So I feel your pain, Eric.
So definitely find an accountant, find a CPA, and like what Farah said, hold on to that individual. I'm slowly developing a relationship with mine, and I don't know, like you see these invoices come in and you're like, well, immediately assume you're just getting screwed, but like this stuff takes a lot of time. And that's why, once we get into our office space, which should be April 1st, or that's the tentative goal, I'm looking forward to hiring an office admin and someone with some QuickBooks experience that can do that stuff, among other things, but that's like desperately needed in my life.
Awesome. Well, if you guys want to stick around for Q&A, I wanted to keep you guys at least for an hour, close to it. So if you got other things to do, kids, wives, dogs, CrossFit, Eric, running a mile, swimming at the river. Oh, you already did it. Okay. You're more than welcome to leave. I appreciate your time. I thank you enough. I appreciate all you guys do for the profession. I think you guys hold your standards very high. So that's why I wanted you guys to.
Mitch has an interesting question.
Yep. And I was going to say, if anybody has to head out, go for it. I'm going to start with questions then. Nettie already kind of answered the dog question. I don't have anything personally like that, but so are you heading out? Okay. Thank you.
Bye, Farah. Have fun on your other podcast. Being super cool.
I'll have to head out too, but I appreciate Nolan bringing me aboard. This webinar, and it's great to have these discussions. I think it's very important for people thinking about going into the survey business to really, hear some of these conversations and know what struggles they might face as they move forward with those decisions. So thank you, Nolan, and great to see everyone. James, Nettie, Eric, Nolan. It's good to see y'all. We'll talk to y'all soon, I'm sure.
Thanks. See ya.
Yeah.
Okay, so with Michael's question, I'll say I started my own business because I think somebody hit it on it earlier, but I wanted that flexibility, but I also wanted to truly be responsible of charge. I never felt like I was truly responsible for all the actions going on behind the scenes with the survey. So I thought if I started my own business, I'm truly in charge of daily operations. The buck stops here, I'm the president, blah, blah, blah. And then with Mitch's questions, before opening shop, what did you think would be the biggest challenge? Honestly, and this is going to sound like a stupid answer, but keeping it a secret, because like Trent said, I started technically opening up my company so I could have a company name and start charging things to the business, because you want to keep your business, receipts and your personal receipts separate, unless you're Eric and you have gas receipts everywhere, apparently. But $7,000 later, too soon. That was my big thing, kind of almost not keeping it a secret, and I wasn't, moonlighting. I was just building that credit and that background. So I'll let you guys chime in if you have anything else on those questions.
Well, I'll go next because I have to sign off here. But basically, just to reiterate what Nolan said, is like I grew up in a family business. We had a farm and then we owned a restaurant, and it was really awkward actually working for somebody else. So after seeing I had great coworkers. I'm not complaining about my experience at all. I had great mentors, but just that freedom and being fully responsible for the work that you're doing and getting fully rewarded for it was the key. I mean, I didn't have a lot of challenges. I kind of had it easy because somebody else was already starting a business and I got to piggyback off of that. So I have to give Eric a lot of credit for helping me go out on my own. I had it a lot easier than most. So I just appreciate Nolan putting this panel together. There's a lot of good discussion tonight, and I appreciate being part of it. So you all have a good night.
I appreciate you. Thanks for coming. Have a good night. All right, Eric or James, anything else you want to add? Answer the questions.
I started my own business mostly for the fact that I was writing contracts and I was seeing what my billable rate was compared to my hourly rate. It's a money thing, right? So I can make X amount more money working for myself. It's kind of interesting now, after a year of business, I make less money than some of my employees. The business makes money, but I don't make any money. And if I track my time, I'm probably closer to minimum wage. But I love what I do. And that's the reason why I do it. So it's, you do have that freedom. You can make your own schedule. I can leave at the middle of the day and go hit the gym. But at 7 o'clock at night, I'm sitting down and doing invoicing. And I'm up early to meet the guys, and I'm here late when they get back. And, you're married to it. So if you're trying to quit your job to start a business to work 35 hours a week, it's not going to happen. You're going to be working 7 days a week, at least for the first amount of years. I told myself 3 years of total sacrifice for Northam Survey, and then we're going to try to start scaling it back. But I hope that answers the question. I started skewing there.
He said you talked about it.
No, I don't mean it in a bad way. Obviously there's money to be made, and when Northam Survey makes money, I technically make money. So, but there's just a lot more to take. There's a lot more to think about. You're thinking about all your employees' families and making sure they can eat, and they have a place to live, and they have health insurance, and they have retirement. I know I have 2 employees that are in their 20s. I had to put it on the schedule and pay for their time to go see the retirement guy to make a retirement account because I care that they have a retirement. Now, whatever they absorb out of that, I give the nickname Boss Man. If they take something positive out of that, like I hope they do, but you don't really know. They're not asking me to set up a retirement account for them. That's just something I want to do.
Perfect. James, anything you want to add to those questions?
Well, let me try to put some more life into the room here. What I think Eric has, the positive thing that needs to be mentioned about Eric's situation is one day, Eric, you'll have the option of selling your business if you would like to, and you will have a name, and you will have employees, and you will have books that prove that your business has been making money for years. And, that is a solid retirement option for you. And so, there's a lot that you're building there. I just needed to say that. As far as for me, why did I start my own business? Control, much like what other people have mentioned. And then the option availability to increase my family's well-being. I mean, make more money and be able to sell a business one day. I don't have any employees right now. I'm doing things a little different, but I very much hope to have employees at some point, maybe eventually sell the business one day. What did I think was going to be an issue that was a non-issue? The phone did not ring that much when I started the business. And for some reason, I thought that when I turned on the web page and the Google ads that my phone was going to start ringing off the hook, which was completely unrealistic. And so I was very nervous for a little while. I had projects coming in, and some of my construction projects took a little while to get started. But yeah, I was nervous about work. And now, like everybody else, I'm trying to figure out how I can get all the work done. And I too work 7 days a week. Not all the time, but many weeks. That's it.
Perfect. Well, for those that are watching afterwards, I'm going to end the recording now. And if anybody sticking around wants to turn on their camera and ask questions, but for those watching, thanks for watching. And there's going to be more Roundtable Tuesdays.